Oh, now we're like a half hour late. Oh, hey,
Yeah.
everybody.
Hey, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor, not
Oh,
on Facebook today because
it looks
Facebook's
like
being a
up top
pain.
we are on Facebook now. I don't even
Nope,
know.
we aren't. I got the red things, man.
You got the
It's
red arrows.
for
Okay.
security reasons. Your account has limited access to the site for a few days. If you have any questions, contact our help center. No, they're not
We
going to be helpful. I've
we
been down
have
this
we
road.
have questions, Facebook. We
We
have
do.
questions.
Facebook is suppressing us.
They
They're
are.
suppressing our free speech.
They are. Those are they don't. It's just crazy. It's crazy what they're doing
So it's
to.
because they're threatened by us.
They are. We're a threat.
Actually, it's probably
We're a
just
threat.
stupid robots, but
We're a
it's
threat to the
much
system.
cooler to say that they're threatened by our speech.
Yeah.
For security
I did
reasons.
share our feed from our group page to my personal page. Sometimes that helps.
Oh yeah, we'll do
you
that.
know? And hopefully we get there we go. Found us again. It could be Patty. She missed our show last week. She was feeling bad.
But hey, whatever. For whatever reason, we're doing this. Even though I just had to send in like a whole thing with Facebook too, where I had to send in my ID and get something notarized so I could run political ads for someone for work and jump through a bunch of hoops and answer questions and sort of a whole ridiculous thing. And this is how Facebook treats me.
You called somebody a dip.
Yeah, I did. I talked about rye bread and dip, and that was a bridge too far for Facebook. They said my account was restricted after that. It sounds like I'm joking. I'm not. No, that's what it was. All right. Anyway, folks, we're listening to this on our podcast audience and on our other stream. We will get to a substantive show. We're half an hour late, but we will get to a substantive show. I promise you. We're going to talk about the FTC suing Amazon for being a monopoly, the wrath of Linda Khan.
Yeah,
and
when you first sent that to me, I thought it was like the florist, the FTC florist. I'm like, what? That's crazy. But that maybe it's an FTC. I don't know.
Federal Trade Commission. And then we'll talk about it's government shutdown season. It's our annual tradition of pretending that the government is going to like run out of money. This year, now back with even less pretending. Because the government, even if it doesn't authorize any spending, can still spend money in Ukraine, as it turns out.
Apparently, man, like they can spend it. It's just wild what they're talking about, the numbers compared to what we're spending in Ukraine. But again, that'll give me one more chance to scream about the broken windows fallacy and how 30% of our economy, 25% of our economy is completely freaking imaginary. We're dusting off bombs, get them to Ukraine, and recording a sale. And we're like, yay,
economic growth.
We're winning. It's like
we're winning. That's right. Anyway, we're gonna go in at 4 minutes, the main show. Appreciate all of y'all sticking with us and jumping across 3 different streams if you're trying to watch the live show. You guys rock.
You guys are awesome.
Yep. And so we're gonna be going live in 3, 2.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Willis today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin, and we're off to the races.
We sure are. We are starting our show. We're kicking butt. We're not going to let Facebook keep us down.
Facebook can't keep us down, man.
That's right. Appreciate all of you who are joining us here on WYSL and our live streaming audiences, which are just YouTube and Twitter and one Facebook group today, but not our Facebook pages for some strange reason. But we're glad everyone who is able to join us, who was able to find us, is able to listen today because we got some great topics lined up. What we're going to talk about whether or not Amazon is a monopoly.
Yeah.
You know, if we wildly stretch the definition of monopoly to include our political enemies, and it's government shutdown season. It's that time of year where we all pretend that the government's going to run out of money, and then we do some kabuki theater about the park shutting down, and we scare everyone that they're going to not get their checks, and then we spend more money and do another CR, and then move on with our lives.
All while failing to create a budget all at the same time.
Year after year after year after year.
It's an endless cycle.
Yeah, it's an annual tradition at this point. Like, we're just not even. A few people do actually want to vote on a budget, and we're going to talk about that too. Like, there are members of Congress who think that they should do their jobs.
So that's the one thing that the House is responsible for, is spending money for the federal government and coming up with a budget by which to do so, a governing document. And they have failed to do it now. 12 years? Something like that. It's been continuing resolutions for a really, really, really long time. And I don't know, like, I don't know that there's any way to hold them accountable for this. Like, the re-election rate is phenomenal. They keep getting reelected and failing to do their jobs. I say shut it down, Kevin.
Shut it all down.
Shut it down. It's the government's fault anyway. All of it.
No, no, I mean, actually, let's just jump into this topic. We'll talk about the government shutdown, and then we're gonna next segment, we're gonna talk about Amazon and pretending Amazon's a monopoly. So the government shutdown thing, right? So what happens? What happens every year? Every year now is the government just. They have to appropriate money because that's what Congress is supposed to do. As you said, they're supposed to say, here is all the money that we are going to spend on everything. Like, here is what we're going to spend on defense, and here's what we're going to spend on interior, and here's what we're going to spend on education, blah, blah, blah. That's what they're supposed to do. That's their whole job. That's why we're supposed to be sending them to Washington, is to make some laws and, most importantly, say, what money are we spending? Right?
Yeah.
What keeps happening? We've gone over it even on this show, is they just say, well, we're not going to vote on our own budget. We're just going to pass a continuing resolution and just do what we did last time, but with a little bit more. I mean, there's also the extra special events that happen, like the COVID spending packages. So sometimes they will, spend a little bit more, but they've had a long time to think about what they want to do in terms of like money that they could be spending. I mean, they went home last weekend. They didn't do business, even though they're coming up on a deadline, and they knew they're coming up on a deadline, and they chose not to pursue this. And so what ends up happening again is, instead of there being open debate about this stuff, and this should be like the business of Congress all year long, there should be open debates. There should be floor amendments. That was supposed to be like the compromise about getting Speaker McCarthy elected, was to actually have a robust debate about this process. And instead, we're here at the last minute again. A bunch of people are going to get into a room, Speaker McCarthy, Chuck Schumer, and someone from President Biden's team. They're going to come up with a 5,000-page bill. They're going to hand it out at 11:30 p.m. the night before the deadline, and they're going to say the vote is in half an hour.
That is, you have to vote on it so you can see what's in it. Like that.
Yeah.
Is one of the most bizarrest, most irresponsible kind of things that I've seen come down the pipe. Like, it drives me crazy. They have one job and they fail to do it. So I did go to the Washington Post because they are the source for things like this. Like, who's going to get hurt? Okay, who is going to get hurt by this government shutdown. And so, really, when it comes right down to it, people that are applying for tax returns and our young men and women serving in the military are the only ones that really look like they're going to get hurt. Some
Yeah.
people get furloughed. Most people can
Well,
work
now they
without
do a
pay.
thing where most government employees get back pay, right?
Yeah,
So it's not like it even like there's not even the incentive for Congress to do the right thing because someone's gonna like lose a paycheck.
right.
No, they're all gonna get back pay.
Yeah,
Just the government doesn't actually shut down when the government shuts down. It
it,
just ends
it
up being more expensive, and then they put up like gates at the Washington Monument and stuff.
yeah. They're going to lock the restrooms at the national parks. The parks are probably still going to be open. They have what are called contingency plans, and they have funds set aside to kind of keep certain operations going. But like
Mhm.
to punish you for perhaps voting for someone who stands in the way of this continuing resolution nonsense that continues and continues, they're going to lock the restrooms at the national parks. So that's that.
Who's using the restrooms anyway? Just
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I have an alternate plan for that. It's not a big deal.
oh no.
It's just like, okay, lock them. I'll set. There's a big tree right over there. I mean, I'm just saying that there's an easy workaround, and I don't have any. Like, I need a tour of a national park from a tour guide. I'm just gonna follow the map around. Hope I don't get lost. Hopefully, I don't. What if they like the rescue services for the national parks for when people get lost? Like, what if they get furloughed? That could be kind of awkward, right?
Yeah, no, that's fair. You're gonna have to rely on volunteers.
The last government shutdown, I was very afraid that my stoplights, like on I-88, where you got to turn off of Route 7 to get onto, I was afraid those stoplights were going to stop working, Kevin. I went and checked on them immediately, and
They're
they were
still
still
going
working, bro. They were
for
still working.
now. It's
Yeah, so I guess I don't have that fear to contend with anymore.
yeah, but so a lot of stuff is considered essential, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really get shut down, including now. Weirdly, and again, I sort of get like the Ukraine funding, but why is Ukraine funding like considered essential? So essential that like even during a government shutdown where Congress hasn't appropriated money for anything, they are still going to get funding. I don't know. That doesn't seem right to me.
Look, have this ongoing thing of making an issue about the funding of wars and the shipment of military aid is really like what they're doing is taking our old bombs, putting them into circulation, blowing them up against Russia, and recording it as a win in our gross domestic product. It's a real broken fallacy situation. The best place for those bombs, their accrued wealth, keep them in a vault. Let them accumulate dust until somebody attacks us. Like, that's the reality that I want us to deal with. I don't think that shipping lethal aid to recycle or to use up our material so that we have to replace it is the actual win for the American people. I don't think it's a win. And besides, I'm anti-war, and I'm getting more and more comfortable there as I just
Right.
the older I get. It's just like, this is what we do, and I don't like any of it. Like,
No, I think that's totally fair. And no, again with the Ukraine situation, like the thing I don't like about it is mostly like the military just stepping in, like, no, we consider this an essential service. We're not going to stop aid, right? But again, there should be consequences like everywhere for actually shutting the government down, right? Like, sorry,
sure.
like there needs to be, and I know this is like life and death in some situations, but there needs to be some consequence to say if you do not do your job, people will suffer because you need to do your job effectively. You need to do what we pay you to do in Congress and work together and come up with like distinct budget priorities to do this. Which again, but to be fair to some folks, like I guess Matt Gaetz is one of the people leading this, who I often disagree with, but he's saying like, hey, we should vote on like at least I think 5 different appropriation bills is what he was asking for, because again, that's what they wanted when they came to a compromise to elect Speaker McCarthy. Is like, let's actually vote on this stuff. Let's have open floor debates. Let's be able to offer our amendments. Let's follow the parliamentary rules that Congress is supposed to pass, and you will get to a consensus eventually. You set a time limit for that debate, right? Like, you can do that.
Right.
Like, that's what the speaker is supposed to do. That's how it's supposed to function. People like Justin Amash have been talking about this for years, but like, let Congress be Congress. Let the democratic process play out. You say, okay, here's our bill. Here are the subsections of the bill. Here's your time to do amendments. You have this month, this many days per section, and then we're going to close it, and then we're going to put it to a vote, right? Like that's what you do, and then you line up the speakers who are on your side, and you say your piece, and they make the best arguments, and then sometimes people are persuaded, sometimes they're not. They might just follow along partisan lines, but you've given everyone a chance to speak. That's how a democracy, that's how a republic is supposed to work. But we're not doing that anymore, and we haven't been doing it for a long time. Again, we've had like at least a continuing resolution for the last like 20 years almost.
Yeah,
haven't we?
It's been going on forever. And like, look, the biggest pain I'm going to feel in my life if the government does shut down is all the whining, bleeding, constant, like false juxtapositions and weird equivalencies that are going to be all over Twitter about how the legislature's actually doing its job and appropriating money and negotiating this is hurting people, and it's going to drive me crazy. But it will give me a lot of likes because I have been calling those people like names and stuff, and people love that. So
wait, I mean, like again, these folks like, oh, you're hurting people by not doing a continuing resolution like at the last minute that you can't read again. No, like you should have been doing your job the whole time. You wouldn't have to do this emergency like consequence of procrastination if they did their job, if like you had effective leadership in Congress in the first place. And I can't help but wonder like when like the members themselves are going to be so ashamed at the dereliction of their own jobs that like they will actually step up and do something about it as the Constitution requires.
That's the part, like, when will they face consequences? When will they face shame? Like we've gone over statistics. Something like 92% of incumbents get reelected, but overall polling for approval ratings of member of Congress is under 20%. So
right. Well, yeah, Congress as a whole, though, right? Well, and right. what's going to happen, right? Like, so I don't know if like my member of Congress, Joe Morelli, would face any consequences for this, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's not really Joe Morelli's fault. It's the hard right Republicans' fault or Speaker McCarthy's fault. It's not his fault that they can't get anything done. And so, and then the Democrats in the area will just fundraise off of, can you believe that jerk Kevin McCarthy wasn't able to do that? You know what we need to do? We need to elect more Democrats to make sure that like we can kick that guy out. And then they'll have the same problem with the Democratic speaker, because Speaker Pelosi had the same issues. And then the Democrats will still be like, you believe those hardline Republicans, they're the reason why we couldn't get a budget passed. And the Republicans will be like, you believe the Democrats, like the reason why we can't do anything. And then they just fundraise off of it forever, blaming the other party. And then us, the American people, end up with budgets that aren't seriously scrutinized, that are written by a small handful of people, often in the executive branch, and then passed without any member being able to take the time to read the bill.
It's deliberate, right? It's this top-down executive, hey, this is what we need to spend money on. Here you go. Here's your budget. It comes directly from the Biden administration and his cabinet. And it's forced on. And look, Trump did the same thing. He tried to do the same thing. He wasn't quite as successful. And he also blinked when it really came time to shut down the government and not sign a continuing resolution. But whatever, here we are. How do we fix it, Kevin? I have no idea. It's just like ridiculous, right?
I'm not sure either until like, again, because it's tough for me to imagine like anyone holding any of their individual members of Congress accountable for like this failure. Like I don't think people will.
No, you're right.
And so like it has to be like members of Congress have to care enough. And again, for a lot of them, unfortunately, like I don't think this is like everyone. I mean, there are people like, again, like Justin Amash is one of them who's like, hey, this is messed up. And a lot of people making a stink that are considered like the hard right holdouts, who are trying to get like an actual debate on this stuff passed. And they're doing a few things I don't like necessarily agree with. They want to debate on like immigration stuff. They want to debate on, the abortion stuff. They want a few things that I might not necessarily agree with, but still having a debate is completely valid. But a lot of members, or at least the way a lot of members of Congress are acting, it's like because they don't have incentive, because they don't have accountability, it's easier for them to just fundraise off of the frustration by blaming someone else and coast along without actually having to do the tough work of having to cast a lot of votes that then they will have to be accountable for, because a lot of members of Congress don't like that. They don't want to have to like vote yes or no on some like specific budget item that someone might care about a lot. Right? Like you got to, thumbs up, thumbs down to sugar subsidies, and someone's going to be really mad about sugar subsidies, or, in either direction. Thumbs up, thumbs down to, a specific military appropriation, like including the war in Ukraine type of stuff, or whatever it is. It's a lot easier to be like, well, we had to make sure the government kept running. So I know there's some stuff in this bill I didn't like, but like I had to vote on it because we had half an hour. And I know there's some stuff in there that I didn't read, but like we had to keep the government open. That was more important.
That's how they play us. I mean, that's one of the tools that they use to play us, right?
Yeah.
Massey brought up the fact that if this continuing resolution passes, how are we doing on time, by the way?
We got a few minutes.
Okay. Massey brought up the point that if this resolution passes, which he's kind of assuming it will, there will be a vote on whether they can fund U.S. military troops, boots on the ground in Ukraine. And I think there's a resolution saying that they're going to forbid it for right now. And so he took a poll on Twitter to see what he got, something like 150,000 votes. And it was like overwhelmingly, yes, we would support a resolution that forbids putting U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine. And that's how does that tie to the budget?
Sure.
We control those purse strings, right? Like if we can't pay them to go in there, they can't go in there. It's kind of an interesting way of how the budgeting process is actually how they solve a lot of problems and how they control a lot of action.
Yeah. No, and there should be votes on things like that too. And yet, but right now, something like that would never make it to the floor. Like it just
Right.
won't. There's not an option. There's no way votes like that even get a shot, because it's so tightly controlled by the leadership that like there's no actual debate. There's no actual democracy that's possible, which is supposed to be the whole point. Right? What are we doing here? We got a constitution. What's going on?
What are we being ruled by when we don't debate items in the budget, when we just freak out emotionally over continuing resolutions, when we call our enemies extreme, far right MAGA or maggot Republicans who want to hold the U.S. government hostage, like trying to inflect the feelings from January 6th. Like, how do we fix this? Like, that's my question. I don't know. And I don't know if we can. And then,
it's tough. Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, I'm usually not this pessimistic, but I get really pessimistic when I talk about government stuff, because I'm like,
sure.
How do we? It's so ridiculously broken. Like I'm going to talk about how like great and interesting Amazon is and how that solves a bunch of problems for us. But
I'm gonna be all for breaking it up, man. Smash it up.
Right. You're gonna take the statist route, huh? All right.
Oh yeah.
Well, all right. Well, we're gonna get to that stuff, folks. So we're coming up on break in just a minute here. So again, the shutdown thing, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see if it actually shuts down. But mostly, this is a circus. This is a show. We've seen it before. It would be great if some like adults would actually fix it. That would be awesome if we could make that happen. But in a minute, we're going to talk about, when we come back here on WISL, we're going to talk about Amazon and whether or not they're monopoly, because the FTC is suing them for monopolistic practices. So make sure you stay listening here on A Free Solution on WISL and everywhere else. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. All right.
I threw you a curveball there, kind of forcing that the partial U.S. government shutdown.
Yeah. No, it's good. Just roll with it. And Shelly asks, why aren't we helping Armenia? Yeah, and if you haven't heard, there's the whole bunch of stuff going on there. Armenia kind of got invaded. And then there's the big oil thing explosion. And
I did hear about the oil explosion. By Twitter. Twitter is my source for everything now. Like that's it. I just go there.
Yeah.
After what Facebook did to us tonight. I can't even go anyplace else. I'm done.
Yeah. But we probably will end up sending like aid, I'm sure, somewhere. But is it Azerbaijan?
Are they going to be able to use
in
bombs?
Armenia.
Because we'll send them bombs and tanks and stuff.
Probably somehow
Right.
we'll end up getting involved, even though like I think like Russia, that's one of their things. But anyway, other stuff going on, other comments. So if a company, say Amazon, did this year after year, would they stay in business? No, probably not.
No.
You got to
no.
actually deliver value to customers. No, but so I want to keep this relatively short, though. I think we're going to go back at 26.
It makes
We're gonna
sense.
jump right into we're gonna jump into the Amazon stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read some of this stuff from Linda Kahn. Go back in 5. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Willis today, joined by Tim the Freedom Marion O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin. I'm here. And so we're going to talk about this behemoth monopoly, competition destroying, I don't know, maybe the Walmart of the internet. I don't know. What do you think?
The Walmart of the internet. That it's funny that you would put it that way, especially given that, Walmart is another company that's trying to expand their e-commerce foothold.
They're actually a legit competitor to Amazon.
Poor Walmart can't rip away the stranglehold of Amazon's monopoly. There's nowhere else you can buy stuff online. Like Amazon is the only option. You can't buy on Walmart or Target or independent stores or what's the weird Chinese one?
Hold up a sec.
Yeah.
There's this place called Uline. You can get Granger. There's for the things that I do, Amazon is actually in the way for things that I do because they don't specify the product as rapidly as I need done. They don't understand what I'm looking for as rapidly as I need it done. But I do think that there are some, and here's where, like, God, I hate the fact that I might support an action by the Biden administration and the Federal Trade Commission. Like, they're going to smash up Amazon. I don't know. Like, let's talk it out.
Well, the lawsuit doesn't necessarily say they're going to smash up Amazon, right? Again, this is a lawsuit that's being brought by Linda Connor of the FTC and 17 state attorneys general. And they're saying that their business practices are unfair, essentially, in that they are harming consumers by raising prices, which is
nope.
No.
Go ahead.
No, they're raising prices somehow, and they're making it hard for competitors to do this. And so they're saying that they have a monopoly on, like, essentially like the superstore category of online shopping, which is like a weird, very narrow view to take. Like what I ended up saying about this is like, Amazon like has like a niche, right? Like they have like a thing that they're trying to serve, right? They have their unique business like differentiation that they do very well. And part of that is logistics. They're very good at trying to bring in sellers who are willing to participate in their systems to be able to get things to customers fast, right? Like that's what they do. And Amazon's a nice thing. Like there's a warehouse here in Rochester. I can usually get stuff in a day, right? Like I'm gonna put in an order for a new Wi-Fi router tonight, and I will probably have it tomorrow afternoon. It's kind of a cool thing. And if you've never like bought and sold stuff, like the way you can participate in that system is basically you can like keep some of your stuff at some warehouses, and then Amazon will very quickly be able to move that to like wherever it needs to go, right? In certain markets, right? Some places it's going to take a while, but a lot of times they can do that. And doing that has a cost, and they will support the sellers who are going to participate in that system because their customers like it and they want to sell more stuff. The government says that that's an unfair practice, that like, and they're weirdly arguing that the cost of stuff is higher because of this, but it's a little bit of a strange thing because what they're saying is, oh, well, Amazon is punishing companies who carry the products on other sites for lower prices, which so they're just not ranking stuff as high. And that the cost of like that quick shipping is built in and increases the price of stuff that's available on Amazon. But here's the thing. I think people are fine with it and they're willing to pay more for it because they can get stuff quicker. Right? Like that's
Sure.
fine. That's the trade-off. If people did not like it, if consumers legitimately did not like Amazon, they would not shop there.
Yeah, I legitimately don't like Amazon. I would actually
And you don't have to shop there, right? You
Right.
have other options.
It's
To
very
call them a monopoly is ridiculous.
well, they have a monopoly on finding five-star 3/4 inch sockets. Okay, instead of the normal 6-star, they have a monopoly on that, and that makes me really mad. I want other places to sell those too because I want them to be easier to find, and I don't want to have to buy 'em because. And this is another part of the lawsuit, or another lawsuit being brought against Amazon, is that Kevin, Amazon Prime is a total ripoff. That's what the
Why?
FTC says. The
It's
total
it's
scam.
it's not though. I mean, like you can think it's not a good deal, right? Like you can think like, this isn't worth the price, but like I pay for it gladly because like I like the quick shipping. I like the other benefits that come with this. Like there's some music benefits, there's like some TV benefits you get from it. I like to watch Thursday night football. And again, I don't like have any particular love for Amazon other than the fact that like it is sometimes convenient if if something of mine like breaks, there's a good chance I can get it in a day. And sometimes like, I'll go to my local hardware store if I need that stuff. I'll usually check there first. I will like look other places, but like if it's between me driving 40 minutes or like round trip to go to Home Depot or me just pushing something on my phone and having it tomorrow, yeah, I'm just going to do that like
Yeah.
most of the time.
Now, and this is where I do have more of a legitimate complaint about Amazon is that don't know how I signed up for Prime. I was getting charged for Prime. I tried to use Prime. I couldn't use Prime. Then I tried to cancel Prime, and I couldn't cancel Prime without changing my debit card number. Like I couldn't find a place to cancel it. I couldn't use it, and I was getting charged from Amazon Prime for months. Like, and they owe me money for that. Now I know I'm never going to see it, but it has to be like $200. Probably what happened is I let one of my kids buy something off of Amazon with my credit card. They signed up for Prime with their email address, and so
Yeah.
they had Prime forever, and I didn't even have access to Prime, and it was very annoying. So that is one of the pieces of the FTC suit that I kind of support. I want Prime to be easier to sign up for and not easier to sign up for because they basically practically force you to sign up for it if you're not a current Prime member, just by the way they do the logistics of the
Yes,
site.
it
as you're
requires
working your way
6
through the site.
clicks.
What's that?
Requires 6 clicks to cancel.
I couldn't even find the first click, so I don't know, man.
Oh.
You kids, you millennials understand this stuff. Us boomers, like we don't know what their subtle wording means, so we
So,
click
I
the
mean,
wrong thing,
'cause
and the next thing you know,
back in your day, you had to like write a sternly worded letter, probably on family like letterhead with like a wax seal, like
yes,
and
yeah,
like a
that was
notary to
easy.
like get something canceled. And you're complaining about 6 clicks.
I don't know. I don't know about this 6 clicks thing because I couldn't cancel it. That's what I'm saying, man. Like I had to change my number on my debit card to cancel Amazon Prime. Like that's what I had to do because they I couldn't even get in the account. Like I don't even know. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I
Yeah,
tried
I
to
mean,
get I found out about it. I'm seeing the charge for Amazon Prime Marketplace on my debit card. So I go try to buy something off Amazon. I'm like, I got free shipping anyway. I can't get the free shipping. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So then I try to cancel Prime, right? That doesn't work. There was no 6 clicks out of this. So I had to like I said, I had to change my number on my credit card. It was crazy. Crazy. So
sorry, man. That stinks. That's annoying. Like I don't know. It sounds like maybe it was with another account or something, but
yeah.
which gonna happen. Yeah, it's a pain. Like it is annoying. And that type of stuff is kind of annoying. Like I get the legitimate complaint about that. I'm more like calling them a monopoly is ridiculous. Like that, like they have like something like 10% of total retail, 38% of online retail. Like which is a lot. It's big,
Sure.
but like the friction to like move to something else, to move to an alternative, is so easy. Like it takes no effort at all to go shop somewhere else, which was funny. Like before, like this topic even like came up, my wife and I were talking. She's like, "Yeah, I can't find like this specific like children's character shirt on Amazon. They don't seem to do well with that stuff. I shop at Target for those things."
Right.
Right.
So
And in which they have their own things that they compete with, right? And Target has like curbside pickup stuff.
yeah.
So we can get stuff like that day, and you don't even have to get out and talk to anyone. You can just hold up your phone and look straight ahead and not look at the workers, face, and just open your
Don't
trunk. You don't
eyeball
have to
them.
say a word if you don't want to. I mean, you
Don't
could be
eyeball.
friendly and nice and human, but you don't have to.
Yeah. No, earlier in the show you said it's government shutdown season, and my brain said, well, really it's government shakedown season. So there are elements of this lawsuit that look just like a shakedown. Like if Amazon comes up with the right payoff, everything will go away.
Yeah, no, I mean that is probably it. Is they're gonna settle for something, and folks, for your benefit, I'm also gonna put down the link to the right. Um, I'm gonna put down the link to the tweet thread of Linda Khan, because she goes into the whole reasons. I mean, you can read the whole like lawsuit if you want to, but basically like they say it's anti-competitive, and that it's harmful to both sellers and consumers the way they're practicing things. But like to me, like and they're doing this with like Google. They're doing like Linda Khan specifically is very interested in like bringing back that like trust busting like uh ethic of the progressive era, because they want to do something about big businesses. And right, and there's a lot of progressives who like, regardless of whether or not these businesses, which are big sometimes, are actually harming consumer interest, they feel like their bigness could potentially harm uh folks. And actually, it's funny, I'm gonna have to go find the show, because I did something about this on a like a local NPR affiliate. I had a debate with, there's like a someone from who used to work at Microsoft, and like a DSA person, and what they're complaining to me, like their theory on this, what I remember is really funny. I was laughing at it. Is like Amazon has like lower price batteries that they are. Their argument back then was they're prioritizing their Amazon Basics products, that they recommend their products higher than other stuff, and therefore like that's what makes them someone trying to corner and create monopoly power in the marketplace, because they're undercutting the price of other batteries and no one wants to buy the other batteries. And then eventually those other battery companies, Energizer, Duracell, whatever, the small businesses, are going to go out of business, and then Amazon will have a monopoly on batteries, and then they'll raise their prices. And like, this is, you are full on conspiracy theorist with me now. Like, oh no, Amazon is selling slightly cheaper batteries, like every other like retail store does too. Like you could buy like the Target brand batteries there too. But like, oh, like maybe someone will like stop buying Energizer because Amazon batteries are like 50 cents cheaper and they're gonna go out of business. Like, are you serious right now? And then they'll have us like in their grips, and they'll raise the price of batteries.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Well,
This was a serious serious argument that someone was making, and they said that they're gonna do that with everything, and everything's gonna be Amazon Basics. And like, well, sometimes they're the better product, sometimes they're not. I've bought Amazon Basics phone chargers, and they stink. They're totally terrible. I do not recommend Amazon Basics phone chargers. They do not work with my phone. Amazon Basics batteries, they work fine. They're fine. Like, I don't really have an issue with them. It
yeah.
depends on the product. And some people might want the name brand because maybe they work better.
I don't know. This whole Amazon thing reminds me of when back in the 70s we broke up Ma Bell, and the end result of that was a technical revolution in the phone industry. And I think that I'm sure that the government would like to find something that they could, a business that they could disrupt on behalf of the American people. But I don't know. Sure, I don't like Amazon, but for reasons of specificity, like of being able to find exactly the product I want as fast as I want it, and some of the things that I buy online are very detailed items, and I got to go to a special kind of a special distributor for that. So,
Oh, sure.
but I think that that's what the government's trying to do, is strike a blow for the average Joe, like they did with breaking up Ma Bell and breaking it into 7 regional carriers who then all had to compete with each other. And we
Tim,
did
since
see
when are
some.
you assuming good intentions on behalf of the government?
Oh, I no, well, yeah, no, this is it. Yeah, that geez, you kind of got me there. But I mean, honestly, you can't
Usually
walk
I'm
me
the one
through
doing that.
for a
Well, they
second.
mean well, but here's why
I mean,
we
I
switched here.
did
I'm
say
like, no,
that
these guys are like jerks and like deserve to like all the scrutiny in the world.
no, but sure, I do think it's a shakedown of Amazon. Like they're after Amazon. If Amazon comes up with the right, virtue signal and some cash, this lawsuit's going to go away. What I think is what I the juxtaposition I was trying to make was that the government did in fact break up Ma Bell. It was somewhat controversial, but it did spark a revolution in telecommunications back then. So
Yeah.
I think that that's what they would. The intentions are okay if they would like to score a victory like that, but also they'll settle for shaking Amazon down for $25 million like they did in the Ring lawsuit.
Yeah,
With
right.
the
That's right. Yeah. I forgot that the
they're
Amazon
like,
Ring
oh, hey,
lawsuit.
your employees have been, accessing videos recorded on other people's like Ring cameras. The government's like, just give us $25 million and it goes away.
We'll
And
just
Amazon
not
said,
worry
sure.
about it.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Yes.
So that's
Congratulations,
probably
guys.
what's happening.
Your privacy was violated and the government made money. Good job.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful system, Kevin.
All right. So we've got to head to break. Thanks again for joining us here on WYSL. We're going to be back more on a free solution in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, man, you had me speechless for a second there. Like,
Got him.
Did I really? Wait, now let me think what I just said. And I'm like, I'm kind of tired because we've been like grinding pretty hard. So it's like,
Yeah.
holy cow, I could be way off base. What did I just say?
No, it's like I'm sure like you're probably not wrong. They probably do think that that's what's going to happen, right? Like they're looking at the
Right.
historical example, but it's just right now, like like their arguments about like having such what they talked about like a flywheel or something. Like basically they have so much momentum that other companies can't start the thing. But here's what tends to happen in these situations, particularly with Amazon, is that other stores who have different stuff to offer are going to start to chip away at their market share, or a new technology will come out that will make it like easier for small businesses to do like independent shipping and to do it for cheaper, right? Like in fact, I know a bunch of businesses, like I know business owners who have started like t-shirt companies, and they didn't like doing it on Amazon because they thought like some of the inventory requirements and the logistics of setup were kind of a pain. They weren't really willing to allow themselves to be there's a business word for this, but basically be overextended in terms of like how much unsold inventory they had hanging around. And they didn't know if they would make that much money on Amazon. So they're like, all right, we'll just do this independently. And there's companies that will like go and find the cheapest rate for shipping stuff. So sometimes they might go with UPS or FedEx or USPS, or like Amazon has their own like kind of subcontracted delivery services. And they just do that. It's relatively cheap. You don't get the free shipping. So you pay, customers pay a little bit in, or they price the shipping in, whatever. And they're not doing it through Amazon, right? Like, and lots of companies do that. I buy stuff from people outside of Amazon all the time because some people don't want to be there. I mean, you got to find it, right? But again, stuff like that, like new technologies, new companies, like Amazon didn't exist 30 years ago, right?
True.
Like it just wasn't a thing. And they came up and we talked about like Walmart being a near monopoly, right? Like people talked about like Walmart being a monopoly on stuff, right? Which they never were. It was always ridiculous to claim that too. But like they wanted to break up Walmart. Well, Walmart got outcompeted. Amazon, it will happen to them too. They will have to adapt or die. Well, that's the beautiful thing about capitalism. Like if you're not serving people well, you're not providing value, your company will die.
Yeah, and there is a certain thing about competitiveness that once you get to be a certain size and that all of a sudden you innovate the market. One of the like the government writes regulations, people work their way around the regulations. That's how Uber kind of beat up on the taxi services and the licensing schemes, and zoning and rental restrictions kind of empowered Airbnb. At some point, like Amazon's going to be the king of the hill. They're gonna buy some regulations that ultimately, end themselves. I think. I don't know. That would be
Yeah,
kind
no,
of interesting.
they'll end up getting stagnant and complacent because they think again, something that could happen is it might not end in like a lawsuit like settlement thing. It could end in like, okay, you're right. We need to be responsible. Online companies should have to meet these regulations, and then like them and Walmart can meet those regulations, and no one else can.
Oh my God, that's how it always. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good prediction, right?
Yeah.
That's very in character with our current governing system, very in character with our current regulatory process. So, yeah, that's on point, probably.
Yeah. All right. Well, what are we going to talk about for the next topic, Tim? We got other
That's
stuff.
a good question. I mean, on some at some point, I think I would like to offer a conversation about the Libertarian Party and about the fact that Robert F. Kennedy was flirting with them. I think it might be offer some interest. There's some wild news out there, like Matt Walsh, the conservative hero, went after Britney Spears. So
Oh.
not only was he not cool about the 2A last week, he was a total communist about Britney Spears this week. I don't know if we want to talk about all that stuff. We talk about the Executive Action Climate Corps. I don't know.
Oh, I know what we should talk about. Trump trying to buy a gun.
Ooh, I heard something about that. We should
All
definitely.
right, we're doing a weird news segment.
All right, let's do it.
So we're gonna go back in like 10 seconds. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Willis today, joined by Tim the Freedom Barian O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin, and the world is just, as far as I'm concerned, as near as I can tell, the world is literally going crazy. And so I'm going to hit you with the first. I think we've got enough to just do wild news this whole section, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
weird news segment. Let's go.
The weird news section. First things first, Joe Biden, the climate czar in chief, executively created a climate corps. And I literally want to say climate corps like Obama did. Like, what in the world? It's just like, I declare that there's going to be a climate corps. No legislative action has to be taken on it. You can sign up to join the climate corps. You don't know how much you're going to get paid. You don't know what the job is. He just wants a few thousand people to get this started.
You're gonna get good paying jobs. You too, Tim, can contribute to fighting climate change.
I already am, man.
What are you doing now? Yeah.
According to the system, I'm making a living off of selling solar panels. So there you have it. I'm doing my part.
Yeah, so you're doing the climate corps. It's a thing that you can join. Apparently, you can get a climate job.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what they are. I think if the next administration comes in and Biden loses, I think a lot of the climate hysteria that's going on is going to be scaled back. And look, I'm in favor of innovative energy supply. I'm in favor of nuclear energy. I like solar panels. I even like windmills. I know other people. I don't think that the windmills pay off the way that people hope that they do. But look,
they're fine in certain situations.
Yeah,
right?
I like this stuff.
Everything has like an application that like sort of makes sense, right? Like,
yeah,
I
still want somebody to burn natural gas and make electric, and I still want somebody to. I get the argument against coal, but I like waste oil, stuff like that to make electric. Burning plastic is a great way to recycle it. Like, I'm all cool with all of this stuff as long as we do it cleanly and responsibly, And of course, nuclear power, if we want flying cars and unlimited electricity, we're going to need massive nuclear power. Massive. And we need to relax about it, the paranoia about that. So,
yeah. Patricia on YouTube says, "You want me to sign up and be your inside person so you know what it is?"
Oh my God.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna post a link in the
Yeah.
comments. You let us know how it is. Easiest job application I've ever seen, but
yeah, do it. There it is. We got it. You just all you need is your email address in. It's gonna be fine.
Yes, your email address, all your phone number, your social security number, your biometric scans, stool sample. That's all you got to do, and then like government's gonna get you a job. It's gonna be great.
It's a beautiful system, guys. It's gonna be great. But yeah, Patty, if you do that, let us know. That would be great. So what do you got, Kevin? I mean, there's more wild
Uh,
news.
let's talk about like so. There's a whole controversy of like Trump trying to buy a gun in South Carolina.
Oh my God, he's
Uh,
gonna shoot somebody on Sixth Avenue and not even get charged for murder. That
Yeah, I mean,
he's
I
ridiculous.
assume that's what his plan was. No,
Like,
it's a funny thing. Like, so he was like, doing his presidential tour thing, and he was like looking around, and like, one of his campaign folks was like, "Oh yeah, like Trump totally bought this gun." But it's kind of weird because now people are like, "Wait, can you like, is someone under federal indictment able to buy a gun?" And like it's a little bit murky actually. Like it's a little bit unclear if he is able to buy a gun because there's some court rulings that said like, well, yeah, you can because you can't. It is a like a gold handgun,
yeah,
and some court rulings say it's unconstitutional for you to deny the right to someone to self-defense when they're merely under indictment and not convicted of a crime.
right.
But the law as it is still technically written right now is you're not able to, and the law is like you're not able to receive any firearm or ammunition um that's been shipped in the United States.
Yeah.
You can face prison time if you're under felony indictment.
Okay.
Supposedly, right? Like again,
Well,
it's a little bit murky, but but this is one of those things where like
what?
if we want to fight for gun rights, like the Second Amendment folks on the right should be like, yeah, that's ridiculous. You should still be able to buy a gun if you are accused of a crime.
Yeah, I mean, and look, maybe he's trying to steal. Like, look, Hunter's kind of made it big in libertarian circles. Maybe Trump sees he fears losing. This is gonna hurt me. He fears losing the libertarian vote, so he has to take a frontline attack on the Second Amendment because honestly, that was one of the things that libertarians were first and foremost all over him about. Take the guns and due process later. He was an equivocator, an NRA style equivocator about gun rights, and you, many of our friends, all saw that as a real threat to individual rights and liberty, and I stand by that. That's one of the reasons why I don't trust him.
Yeah.
So he's
No.
trying to steal some of Hunter's
Trying to get some that like I would love to see like it seems like the whole thing was fake that he was just trying to look cool for his supporters like that seems like
yeah,
what
yeah,
actually
that,
happened, which is
that
like sort of sad in its own right.
yeah, just a show.
But yeah, like I'd love for him to do that. Him and Hunter go in on a challenge, Second Amendment challenge to arbitrary gun laws altogether,
Yeah,
and you know.
that
It'd
would
be
be
great.
awesome.
I'd love to say like that. That's like the best headline like we would never predict is Trump and Hunter Biden working together to protect the Second Amendment. Like
Ooh,
Trump will earn my respect back if he does that. Like
yeah,
commit some civil disobedience, man. Just
that would
do
be
it. I
pretty.
want to see what happens.
He would get some cred for me from that if he fights any charges on a Second Amendment basis. I would. I still am not. I'm still not persuaded. I still see hope for the Libertarian Party. I think the anti-establishmentism that Trump, the fevers of that Trump stoked, the flames of that Trump stoked. I think they still exist. I think a lot of people are realizing that as interesting as Trump was, he was distinctly unprincipled and populist. Even though he did good things, like he did good things, right? Like he did things that the Biden administration is now trying to recreate after they kind of executively pulled away from him, like lowering drug prices. Trump tried to do it through competition and imports. Biden is now kind of executive ordering, special pricing for off almost nearly like near off patent drugs, something. We're gonna have to do a show on that because it's kind of like this scam that he pulled, but whatever. Trump was pretty legitimate there. He did some good stuff in the inner cities, whatever. Let's not talk about Trump all day. We'll have
Yeah.
this guy is going to provide plenty of stuff for us in the future.
Yeah.
So, like,
Oh, and by the way, again, like one more thing on the gun because I forgot like one of the other crimes, like if he had actually purchased the gun and lied on a federal form, he would have been committing is you can't lie to the feds. You lie on a federal form, you're in big trouble. It's like
big
15 years
trouble.
in prison, big trouble. Not allowed to.
Be so awesome to get rid of that. With these two
Yeah.
leading the
With
front
the, with
charge.
that, with the drug use thing too. If you're, an illegal drug use, yeah, no. We again, we talked about that with Libertarian hero Hunter Biden.
Last show, guys. If you didn't catch it, check it out
Yeah,
on Spotify.
that was a good one. That was that was a fun one. But anyway, so briefly talking about like the populism thing, because I know like we got Robert F. Kennedy, who's
Yeah, I
allegedly
mean,
flirting with the Libertarian Party. Didn't he meet with like the chair of the party or something?
there was some discussion about that. I'm referring to a Seattle Times article. There, Angela McArdle is she did have a meeting with him. Dennis Kucinich, who, guys, going back to Dennis Kucinich, he ran for president. He was very much a liberal, but he was incredibly likable, and he was very much not. He was very much an individual rights kind of guy, and very like respectful of people that disagreed with him. And he was very likable. So he's actually behind the Kennedy campaign. He's Kennedy's campaign manager. So I think he's saying Dennis Kucinich is denying that he may run as a libertarian. Mercado saying we would love to talk to him if he wants to run. I do see some value if Robert F. Kennedy runs as an independent. I think that would be more in lines with a centrist notion that we still need a big government, but I'm going to be better to human beings versus the one side versus the other. That's where I see value in Robert F. Kennedy's message. He's not a libertarian. I would be somewhat disappointed if he was the libertarian nominee. But let's say it triggered something our buddy Sean Hannon brought up. Like it triggers a primary between Robert F. Kennedy and Justin Amash. Now, wouldn't that make for interesting news for the Libertarian Party? That's kind of,
it would be. It might be interesting. It might be like attention bringing. So that I definitely don't think RFK represents the libertarian brands very well. And
no.
I would I don't know. I'd vote for him even if he were the nominee. I don't know.
I would have a hard time voting for him if he was the Libertarian Party nominee, and I would have a hard time supporting his candidacy and the Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
And look, like
we'll see. We'll see. I know it's a ballot access question, but like, so it's tough. But yeah,
there's if we don't stand on what we have as principles, right? That the individual is the smallest minority of all that deserves protection. If we don't stand on principles like that the Bill of Rights are not granted to us by the government. Those are our rights. We just simply, sussed them out and they're on a piece of paper. Like that's a libertarian principle. If we don't stand on these principles, then what do we really have? And the answer may be, we don't have much, but still we have our principles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. And we need to stick to that. Remember, the government doesn't give us rights. The Constitution doesn't give us rights. We have those rights. We restrict government to make sure that they don't violate those rights. And someone who doesn't get that, it's going to be a problem. And someone who thinks that like and this unfortunately happens with a lot of populists. Trump, RFK, I think Vivek is kind of in the same vein a little bit, but he's at least funny. People who are like, what the real problem is that me and my friends aren't in power, right? Like they don't attack the root of the problem. They take the correct rage at the system, the rage that we talked about in the first segment, the people who are frustrated with Congress not moving and not doing their job. And they say, hey, you know how we can fix that? We fix that by giving me more power. Right. And that's
I know it's such an argument. Oh, Patty has a great question out there, Kevin, and it's a difficult one. So let's bring it up. She likes Cornel West. She met him. He is a good guy, and we keep skipping Marianne Williamson running. I've talked about her, and I believe I talked about her on this podcast now. And this is with all due respect to her. I don't take her seriously. I think that, and whereas with Cornel West, I find him to be a genuine person and legitimately advocating for what he views as a better governing system. Right. I don't think that at the end of the day, I would find much to agree with him with. But Marion, and maybe this is just me, and maybe you can convince me otherwise, but I don't take her seriously.
I mean, like because we saw her run last time, and I know she has her own set of beliefs, but she kind of falls into that same like progressive mindset. It's just she doesn't advocate her vision for society as aggressively as someone like Elizabeth Warren, and yeah, like I don't know, like I don't have strong feelings about Marianne Williamson. She said some fun things, but like she doesn't break through the mold in the same way that more interesting candidates have, and nor does she like represent my beliefs. And Cornell was again a true independent too. Like again,
Yeah.
he's running, trying to
I'm
run
kind
as
of a
an
fan of his. I've got to admit it. Like
he's interesting. Again, I don't agree with him. I
yeah.
hope I do not want him to win because I
No,
think
I know.
it
I
would
know.
not be great if he won. But like he's interesting. He's doing his thing. I can respect that at least. Um, no, we'll see how he does. Again, running the way he is a really tough uphill slog, and
Yeah,
it'll be tough to get enough ballot access to even make a dent.
yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. I want more candidates, out there, and I want more people running. But the reality is that the someone should sue the Democrat and the Republican Party as collaborative monopolists who are running for-profit corporations that actually have monopolized our elections. And I don't think it would be that far of a legal theory to be able to connect them together enough to say that they collaborate to exclude competition, regardless of like RICO laws. They don't actually have to find the agreement. They can just say, well, they did this and they did that. They're obviously in some sort of agreement, and they've obviously acted to benefit themselves. So that would be an interesting time
Yeah.
if we were to bring that kind of
Okay,
monopoly.
like, I know people have tried, right? Like, I think there's like especially like 2016, there's a pretty good case for that, right? The
Yeah,
exclusion on that, because that is like a legitimate like not monopoly but duopoly, right? Where
yeah,
they are able to corner the market and all of the nationally televised like presidential debates and set arbitrary criteria for excluding people again it because we used to have third party candidates. We had them with like Ross Perot at one point in time, and that scared them so much that they didn't want to do that anymore. But we're gonna have to continue this topic in the after show. Thanks again for
all right,
joining us here on A Free Solution. Have a great night, WYSL audience. Take care. All right. Sorry to end it suddenly. I looked up at the time and I'm like, oh, we're like 30 seconds over. Oops.
all right. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, see, okay, let me be perfectly clear then too, because perhaps I just read a few things from her and I got the wrong impression of her. I don't know. I haven't noticed her being fun. I kind of felt like she was just a self-help guru who is like promising the government can actually, instead of you helping yourself, the government is going to help you. And I found that to be ironic. Um, because Patty, as you know, like regardless of what real benefits we get, they start with each other, and the government sometimes seems to just interfere with that. Like I can't kind of just slide away from that. Like, and so Marianne seemed a little bit ironic to me. So, and I hope
Yeah.
I'm not, like I don't know. That was just the impression I got.
No, I kind of generally agree with that impression. I hold on. I want to jump back to this before we jump back into some of our topics. It's just
I
Patricia.
know that was
Kevin, I will
beautiful.
send them a stool sample without signing up.
That's
It's
perfect.
great.
That was beautiful.
But
Yeah,
didn't
that was.
want to let that comment go by, Patricia.
It Here's one too, Shelley. They are saying they're calling themselves libertarians. Like I think even Matt Walsh called himself a libertarian at some point on some show somewhere, and it's like, yeah, okay, like all right, so it's cool. We're here, all right, but like they don't actually understand the principles of what we're talking about, and it seems like an attempt to grab popularity, like if we could get those pesky libertarians to fall in line. It feels like that
right.
sometimes. But also, like, look, like Patrick Bet David, some of the Jordan Petersons, they're reaching out to real libertarian voices and having shows
Mhm.
with them, and I like that. I think the more people get comfortable listening to us, because I think we've gotten in some way quiet, and in some way we became an attempt at a real political machine that perhaps didn't really work. Um, like when we ran William Weld and stuff like that, I think that created some blowback,
Yeah.
downstream problems. I don't know, like it how to say it the
Um,
best way, but I
No, a little bit, and I was actually gonna. I thought about in talking about RFK being the Libertarian nominee, referencing like Dick Sarwark kind of famously said like he would vote for anyone who's the Libertarian nominee. He sort of has to say it as a chair. I get it, but like I'm not a party official anymore, and I don't have to say that I will vote for anyone no matter what.
I know that's beautiful, right?
You
It's like
know, it's
it's a good place to be because we can be like, um, we can be critical of everything, and it's just like,
yeah,
all right, hey, we kind of like it this week, and maybe we don't like it next week.
yeah. Like I mean, like it's the LP, like they have to keep earning people's votes, right, including ours, right? It's okay, if you're gonna put up someone who's not at all representing like our values, then okay, maybe I'm not gonna at least not gonna spend my time and maybe not even vote for them. And
Right.
I still like my libertarian friends, the activists, the folks running in New York State and stuff. Like y'all are great and everything. I'm just saying, like, don't you guys shouldn't take it for granted, like not us specifically, but anyone that they're gonna stick with you through any elections because people are gonna do what they're gonna do. You got to keep earning it. Gotta keep making the sale.
And that's the thing. You're like that's probably one of the failures of the Libertarian Party, because here we are saying, look, these are our principles, and then to kind of participate in the system, some principles have to get sacrificed, right? Like even just think about this, Kevin, and this is a wild one and it's unfair, but like the Democrats and the Republicans get federal money because they get such a high percentage of the vote. One of the Libertarian Party's goals is to get 5% of the vote so that we get matching federal funds to run our
Right.
campaigns. And it's like, how freaking ironic is that? And look, I'm not knocking that as a goal, but there's a certain distinct irony there that's
Yeah.
problematic, Like,
There is, and it just reminds me again, like the 2016 campaign, where we probably had the best shot of that happening. I don't know if we would have, if we had gotten that high, if we would have been able to capitalize on it effectively. But I think that campaign, there was like a very good and realistic shot at like bringing a successful lawsuit, and I think they tried to. It just got dismissed for like the monopoly on the presidential debate thing because they were going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. They
oh,
you
okay.
know and like the argument they're trying to make is like the criteria shouldn't be that you need to get a certain arbitrary percentage of the vote, which they would just raise even if like Gary Johnson had reached it. The criteria should be, are they going to be on the ballot in enough states to actually win? Which I think is a pretty good set of criteria, right?
Right.
Like because that doesn't happen. Like there in the last 10 years, there's only been like a couple candidates who hit that threshold. Like 2016, it was Gary Johnson and the Green Party candidate Jill Stein. In 2020, I think it was like Joe Jorgensen, and I don't even know if the Green Party had enough that time, but like because they're always kind of close.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
In 2024, who knows? Like it's going to be tough to say like who's going to have it. So it's a feat of resources and organization to get to the point of being on the ballot in like enough states to actually win, much less being on the ballot everywhere.
Yeah.
So that person should be included in the debate. Yeah, if Cornell West does it, he should be in the debate. Sorry, like
Absolutely. The debates are like a show pony kind of trial thing anyway. It's like,
man,
here's your 5 questions, and like you're supposed to answer the questions, but you don't. And please feel free to attack the other guy personally because that helps our ratings. And
I mean,
it's kind of gross.
if I got into the debate, that's what I would have done. Is
Yeah.
I would have just like relentlessly called my congressman fat or something, and
that would have been epic, bro. Epic. The problem is that it would work, Kevin. That's the thing.
and then I would win, and then I could sit in Congress and be doing nothing right now.
Oh, less than nothing and making killer money. Like we talk about what their salaries are. That's nothing.
Could have been
That's
an unusual
nothing.
whale. Could
Yeah,
have been
that's
great.
nothing to what they get. You get good stock buys, you get per diems, you get all sorts of other reimbursements, you get extra money for serving on committees. We don't even really have a good grasp of what like the cash flow these guys are getting from serving in the government.
Yeah,
We
it's
have
a bunch of
no
stuff.
idea.
I don't know. I can't remember if I've talked on this show, by the way, like about like what happened with my debates when I ran for Congress. Like it's so frustrating. Like I got invited on the WXXI debate because they are a publicly funded entity. They have to invite everyone on. I was on the ballot, so they invited me. Congressman Morelli accepted. The Republican candidate did not, and so if the Republican candidate didn't show up, Congressman Morelli wasn't going to show up. Then there's the Channel 8 debate, which you had to have raised, like their arbitrary threshold is you had to have raised like $50,000 to get in, and Congressman Morelli met that because he's good at way he's an incumbent.
Right.
The Republican had not. I hadn't met that. The Republican hadn't met it either, but he loaned himself enough money to be able to get into that debate.
Nice.
And so, and I call up station, like, what the hell? This guy hasn't raised this much of donations. He's like, well, technically, he donated to himself. I'm like, he loaned himself money. What are you talking about?
Oh,
like, he shouldn't be allowed in your debate either. Like, he doesn't meet the qualifications. Sorry, he's not a serious candidate. He is as serious as I am. He just happens to be richer.
No, I got invited to debate my Republican and my Democrat counterpart at Cornell, in the School of Public Governance or something, and like it was looking good. Like I was going to get there, even as a write-in. They were like, no, we don't care that you're writing. You can still come. And then, like sometime late in September, like Peter Oberrocker chickened out. Like I don't care. Like I don't hate the guy. I don't really dislike him that much, but like he literally chickened out. He didn't want to be on the stage with me. And first of all, we both would have just destroyed that poor Democrat guy because he was just a nice guy, but he was a little befuddled, to be perfectly honest. And he was really, really too nice to like. He couldn't be on a stage with a guy that can talk like me. There's no way. You know what I mean? Neither one of them can. Like that, I would have destroyed them. Like it. I don't care. I would have wrecked them. I would have wrecked them with humor, and I would have laughed the whole time, and I would have made them look so bad. But whatever.
Yeah.
What do you want me to say? Like they were scared. They were right to be scared. That's it.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's fair enough, man. I've been in debates with you. You're formidable.
I try to stay on topic, and when I don't, I'll attack you.
That's right. No, and by the way, I like just as a clarifying point, like I don't actually like fully blame the station for that. Like it wasn't like exactly this my situation.
Sure.
Patty's like I would have been mad at him, right? Patricia on YouTube. The station was actually kind of because the folks there were kind of cool about it. They're like, hey, look, this isn't really like our policy. It's like the national policy for all the stations across it. Like this is our thing. Like we can't go around this rule. Like, sorry. And he technically met the definition of rule, and they're like, yeah, sorry, but we're gonna give you airtime. Now the weird part about the station was they did a pre-recorded interview with me, right? They did a pre-recorded interview, and then like a couple days before, they're going to air that interview like immediately before the debate. And then they're like, "Oh, hey, we lost your interview." I'm like, lost it? What do you mean you lost it? But like, luckily, like the guy who did the interview did the thing. Is like, do you want to just come on live before? Is Adam Chodak? Is like, do you want to come on live? Like, I feel bad we lost the interview. Come on live. Like, we're going to do a section about local politics, and we'll introduce you as the candidate, and then talk about the debate. Like, okay, that works. So
that's cool.
It's great. I was able to do that. I was able to go on and make my points and whatnot. But yeah, just a weird experience trying to run as a third party.
I did do a forum against my Democratic opponent, like not against him. It was just a forum, and of course the Republican didn't attend, but the host of the forum asked a question, just this general question of like, oh, what about all the money in politics, and I had just happened before the forum with looking at my opponent's donations, and he was getting it from all over the state, and there was like hundreds of dollars coming in, like from downstate. And so he's starts going off about all the dark money coming in from other various places to his Republican opponent. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm a big fan of taking all the money out of you. Like, if you're not in a local race, and if you're getting money from George Soros, all that money should be taken out. And he just did. He was just flummoxed because the money that he was getting was coming from those little nonprofits that probably George Soros gave some money to. So he's getting $150, $200 checks. And so he did. Honestly, the host was a progressive, but a nice guy.
Yeah.
And him, they had no idea what to say to that because I had circumvented their strategy of taking down the Republican by taking them down. It was beautiful.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. Again, I can't wait for you to run for office again when somehow you get foolhardy enough to do that, because the entertainment value is just going to be.
I don't see it happening. Our radio show is it's too successful, Kevin.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's too good of a thing going on here.
Yeah.
Trish says, I like town halls better than debates. Like, generally, I like that format too, right? And again,
it's a little better.
I've seen those. I've participated in them. And like you have a time to because it's just you. Like, there's no I mean, you still can point out that your opponent's terrible, but if you're asked a direct question about a policy issue, and you have a host that is committed to getting you to actually answer the question, then you actually get something of substance out of that. Again, whether or not people want that, I don't know. And again, we're talking right now about debates, and there's a Republican debate going on right now that at least none of us are watching. that Trump's not in.
Man, I that's funny that we bring that up because I listened to that chubby guy on Jordan Peterson, and he is literally a psychopathic warmonger. Like the justifications that they come up with for fighting wars overseas and spilling the blood.
Can you be more specific than that?
Chubs, fatty fat, chubby.
Wait, are you Chris Christie?
Yeah, I mean,
okay, there you go. What are you talking about?
Well, now that I've lost weight, I feel pretty good about making fun of how big that dude is. Come on, man. It's kind of bizarre. Did you catch the Matt Walsh Britney Spears thing?
Oh, I did see that because she was doing a weird little dance. Which, if you've ever seen any of her content, she does weird stuff like that constantly. It's just her thing.
Yeah,
but
he's like, oh my
she had
god,
knives in her hand.
Some sort of argument for her dad should have kept her conservatorship. And look, she doesn't move as well as she used to when she was young, but she still moves well. It was like a little Halloween skit. Her Shih Tzus weren't harmed. They were plastic knives. Everybody just chill out, man. She's gonna do her own thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. That doing what she did was harmless.
Matt Walsh looks more and more like a communist to me every day. Honest to God, I don't care. That guy is such a disappointment.
I mean, well, unfortunately, there's a lot of folks, especially on the conservative side, in his realm of conservatism, religious conservatism or national conservatism, those areas, that they want control too. They want a different type of control. They're looking for a different type of control that is in opposition to woke progressives, but they want to control you in their own way. And so, yeah, that I'm going to be opposed to. Sorry, that guy is not on my team. I'm not closer to him, any closer to him than I am to Elizabeth Warren or whoever. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was going to say AOC, but actually she's had some good opinions recently.
Yeah, no, look, when they stay consistent and when they say cool things, I don't care if they're on the left or on the right. I just don't care. And when I especially would like, even though I'm not particularly nice, but I feel as though society has brought us here. I would like them to be nicer to each other. Elizabeth Warren going on about maggot extremists, MAGA T with a T extremists who want the government, the legislature to do their job, to do a job, and that's control the purse strings. Her flipping out, saying, somehow they're holding the government hostage when they're arguing for something sensible is reprehensible. It's reprehensible. It's you're driving me crazy. So Anyway, check this one out. And I kind of vaguely remember this. Like Erie, Pennsylvania is out. Like if you go out to Buffalo, Erie, Pennsylvania is right out there, right?
Mhm. Yeah, well,
So
it's well, I mean, it's just south of the New York border.
yeah, so you could end up in Erie and like that's pretty funny. She Oh, well, I kind of remember this where she was kind of asking a bunch of questions that like she didn't have great answers about upstate New York, and then the interviewer asked her like, did she know where she was? And she
Right.
didn't really.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, she's had some amazing gaps over the years. People forget,
Yeah.
but I know.
Well, they do. We have short memories. I think that's another problem with libertarians is that we tend to have a longer memory for things. Like I can still remember when Joe Biden got kicked out of the presidential race for admitting that he was a plagiarist, right? And like that didn't come up once in this last like election cycle. It's like, and I told my kid, hey, my oldest kid was very pro Biden. I'm like, well, I mean, I really can't vote for a guy. I can't be interested in voting for a guy that already dropped out of the presidential race because he got caught as a plagiarist. Like I can't do it.
Yeah,
Not that I would have anyways. Everything he stands for is wrong practically.
it's all the other stuff too, and yeah, now I know I don't want to like extend the show too much longer because it's already late, but like we'll talk about like some of the UAW stuff, the unionization stuff, like kind of the shifting of the economy and why both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are kind of like courting. Like I don't even think they're really courting like them specifically, like the UAW. They're courting like the nostalgia of how certain people feel that like manufacturing middle class like unionized folks had their heyday in the country. Like they're courting nostalgia. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll save that for next week though.
We could talk about that next week, honestly, because we could do a very easily do a whole segment on courting the UAW, what that entails, how the government has bailed out big business, especially the car makers, how they did it, and I'll once again get to rant about the broken windows fallacy,
Yeah.
and why what we're seeing for me something of an illusion. And I think we should
Yeah.
let's do
Well,
that
and
next
an
week.
interesting thing too about how the UAW one things they're mad about is the shift to electric cars because they're easier to manufacture.
Yeah,
And
like
the
let's
car
have a
companies
collective
say as soon as we
bargaining
switch to electric, we're going to cut jobs.
Yeah. I,
Just won't need as many people in it. So there's a bunch to unpack there, but I think we're gonna save that for next week. We're gonna call it a night, folks. Thanks everyone who joined us. Shelly and Patricia in the comments. You guys rock. Always appreciate it, and everyone else listening and rejoining us several times after technical
yeah, that was
difficulties.
great. You guys,
Appreciate y'all listening to the live show who did
they
that.
all found us on YouTube, bro. That was very
Yeah.
cool. That's great.
All right. Well,
Thank you very much for that, guys.
yeah. Thanks, folks. Have a great night.